and I discovered that I had an interest in many cultures. I started out probably, the first film that I did that really took me there was a film called Smoke Signals, which dealt with the Native American community in the United States, which is a very difficult story. The way the Indians were treated, of course, by the white settlers and all of that. And I found that I wanted to tell a story of humanity that showed that culture in its uniqueness, but also showed why we were all the same, because we are. So for me, I started looking around at other things that interested me. I started, looking overseas, especially Asia. Interested me personally. I spent a lot of time in China. I spend a lot of time in the Philippines, where I do a lot of work. And I started finding those stories, and those kinds of stories that deal with cultures and the uniqueness of culture, the food that's different, the certain things that they do that are different, but ultimately you find that the story is the same. It's about humanity, it's about people, it's about love, it's about caring, it's about friendship. So this story in particular, really intrigued me. When Jeannie brought this to me, I thought immediately, I brought it to the parallel of being, Sex in the City in the Chinese American community in Flushing, because it just made perfect sense to me. And it's a story of young women finding their way, professional women, how they deal with their families, their mothers in particular, their friends, their relationships, their children. And there's nothing different about that in one way, because that's what we all deal with. Yet on the outside, from the way Main Street is, with the restaurants that look more like Beijing and look more like where I spend my time in Asia than the United States, it's very unique, and culturally that's very interesting. And at the same time, the story that they all go through about their life, their relationships, their loves, is very much the same that anybody else goes through. So it's relatable by any culture that watches the show. When we cast Julia Roberts in Mystic Pizza, she was a newcomer. She had done a couple things, small things, but she really hadn't done very much. Now she was already, a professional actor and had worked, but she hadn't worked very much. And when she came in for the casting session, she was raw. She was very raw. But we knew when we saw her there was something there. There was something amazing about her. So yesterday, or the day before, when we were casting on Wednesday, we saw professional people, we saw non-professional people. And the non-professional people, there were some really exciting people who came in that blew us away, because they have the right instinct, they can understand character, they understand the story, and it's not that easy to do. Acting is not pretending. It is in a sense, but it's also pretending you're real. You have to be real. You cannot be, what you might think is bad acting, right? So it's really hard, and some of the people did a good job. Some people, may not be ready to do this yet, but a lot of the people were really, really good and really were very exciting. So I think we're going to be able to cast a really nice mixture of some people who are sort of semi-professional and some people who are not professional at all. We've been talking about how to turn what we're doing here and this work in the Asian community, because it's Asian community at large. For this particular show, it's Chinese American, but we're talking about, especially in Queens, we're talking about multiple ethnicities. So that's interesting to me, and there's people who want to do this, who don't feel they have a way into, I say Hollywood, but New York, is just like Hollywood, right? The casting directors, the agents, it's the same as LA. And they feel like they're not part of that. They feel like they're in Queens, or they're somewhere, they're far away from that. They haven't trained at the famous acting schools, so they don't know what to do. They don't know what to do, but there is talent. So for me, I teach a lot. I teach seminars. I teach in the Philippines. I teach all over the world, producing, writing, directing, and to be able to bring people in and give them an opportunity to introduce them to the industry would be fantastic.
One last question. There are people singing on Main Street. It's everywhere. So are you going to franchise this TV series?
Well, the idea with Main Street is to do this promo pilot and to basically get a commitment from one of the major, networks, streamers, or cable companies for a commitment for a season, 2 seasons, 3 seasons, whatever they want to do. And yes, that's the idea. And then ultimately, there's a way to take that series and, you could sell the concept on your own to other countries. There's countries and there's people who buy, like somebody in India might want to make Main Street, Mumbai, Main Street, Sydney, Main Street, in Colombia, in Bogota, Colombia. You can do that. And there's movies now where somebody sees a movie and they buy the rights and they do a localized version of your movie. And you get paid, of course. The producers get paid. They're not involved in it, but they get paid and the rights are paid for, and they go make the version in their country. So you can do the same thing here. It would be amazing.
Thank you, Scott. We understand the Six City is universally appealing to everyone.
Yeah.
So they had a TV series. They also have movies.
Yes. If the series is, like Sex and the City was very successful, and it took a long time before they actually made a movie, but there's no reason you couldn't, after a few seasons of a successful TV series like this, you could absolutely make the feature version of Main Street. No question. And, all you have to do is come up with a different angle, a new story, same women, the same characters, but it's very doable, and it's done all the time. And it's done more and more now. So I think that would be fun too. A lot of fun.
Yeah, before we wrap up, Scott, Sex and City, those girls fall in love with the city, the fashion, each other, friendship. So can we assume Main Street, those girls and mothers fall in love with this country, the immigrants?
Yes, that's true. I think like I said, it's a universal story. These 4 women are like any other women who are finding their way professionally, different levels of education, different levels of work experience, some with children, some without, and they all have stories. They all have great stories to tell. And this is our way into telling a great story of Main Street and of Flushing and the Chinese American community.
Thank you. So we can say Main